You've worked hard for what you have. Your money, your assets, your 401k, and home. Isn't it all worth protecting? Nearly 1 in 4 consumers have been a victim of identity theft. LifeLock Ultimate Plus helps protect your finances with up to $3 million in reimbursement. LifeLock alerts you to identity threats you might miss. And if your identity is stolen, your dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. Let LifeLock help protect what you've worked so hard for. Save 25% off your first year on LifeLock Ultimate Plus at LifeLock.com/aware. Terms apply.
Now for our story. Today, as Ben Calvert stood in front of his office in Wakefield, he was aware of the malicious glances of the townspeople. Knew they were thinking what a fool his daughter Kit had made of him. But Kit was gone now, and Ben was left alone with his fury. Hearing the sound of laughter, Ben had glanced across to the square and seen his daughter's ex-husband strolling with a beautiful young Italian girl, Carla Descari. At the sound of Bill Meade's voice, Ben had been swept with anger, for he had convinced himself by now that the disgrace and ridicule he'd suffered were the young man's doing. A moment later, Carla's husband had come by. On an impulse that he didn't quite understand himself, Ben had detained the young man, had mentioned seeing Carla and Bill together. He'd been startled by the dark look which came to Mario's face for an instant. But it had passed almost at once, and Mario had said with apparent sincerity,
"He's a very good friend of mine, Bill Meade."
I dare say. Look, Mario, I've got some cold beer inside. Why don't you come in my office?
Oh, thanks, Mr. Calvert, but my wife will be looking for me.
Well, where are you meeting her?
I told her to be in front of the courthouse at 2.
Good enough, then. You can see her from my window when she turns up.
Well, I don't know. I better not. Thanks just the same.
Oh, come along. Good heavens, man, you don't want to be led by the nose, do you? Keep your wife waiting once in a while. She'll love you all the more for it. Besides, I want to hear about the farm. I understand you put in a lot of improvements.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to hear all about it. We'll sit by the window. You'll be able to see Carla from there. Now, there you are, Mario.
Thanks. Oh, say, that does taste good, Mr. Calvert.
Nothing like it. I don't go in for any heavy drinking, never have. But I like to keep a couple of quarts of good beer on ice here at the office.
My old man was a great one for beer. I remember in the old days, during Prohibition, he used to make it himself, down in the cellar.
Home brew. Yes. Seems to me I had a bottle or two with him a couple of times.
I'll bet.
Your father was a great guy, Mario. Had a mind of his own, too.
You're not kidding, Mr. Calvert. Nobody ever put anything over on my old man. I can tell you that.
He knew his farming, too. He was what I call a natural-born farmer. Seemed to have an instinct for it.
Yeah. Ash, when I got that telegram overseas, I just couldn't get through my head. Couldn't believe he was gone. Then, all of a sudden, it would come to me. You know, I cried like a baby. And I wasn't ashamed to either.
No reason.
It's a screwy business. The guy gets used to seeing some terrible things in a war. You think you've got so it don't mean anything anymore. A human life. It's cheap as dirt, you think. But then, someone close to you. Your buddy. Or your old man. It gets you where it hurts.
I know. I was overseas last time. And it is as you say. Some things a man never does get used to.
After that, things went all to the devil out of the place. Carla would write and tell me. She worried, but she couldn't do anything about it. You know my grandpa?
Yeah, I should think I do, my boy. Knew him before you were born.
Well, he's an old man now, and Carla says I shouldn't be sore at him. But I sure was mad when I came back and saw things were.
Well, your wife's quite right, Mario. You can't hold it against him at his age. Besides, he had it on his mind, all right. In fact, I had a talk with him once about a loan. Nothing ever came of it. He didn't come back.
Carla told me.
I never did know what changed his mind.
Well, I'll tell you, Mr. Calvert. It was me. They wrote, and I told them not to do anything until I got back.
Oh, I see. So that's what happened, eh? Well, I don't mind saying I was sorry about it. A man couldn't make a better investment. You've got a fine place there, Mario.
It's the best.
Too bad you didn't come around to see me when you got back. we could have fixed up a good deal between us.
Maybe so. But I'm satisfied the way things are, Mr. Calvert. Bill Meade's fine to do business with. He lets me alone, but if I want to talk things over, he's always got time to see me.
Well, if you're satisfied, that's all that matters. Everyone to his own taste, you know. And I will admit Bill's smart about getting people's confidence. If they get disillusioned later, that's another story. Anyway, you were doing all right at present, I gather.
Oh, sure. I got nothing to worry about.
It must be pretty nice getting back from overseas and having a pretty wife like Carla waiting for you.
Oh, you're darn right it is.
I guess you know how lucky you are. A lot of fellas got back and found there'd been a few changes made while they were gone.
Changes? I don't get you.
Oh, you know what I mean. A girl gets restless, lonesome. Some chap comes along and flatters her a little, buys her a few presents. Before you know it, she's forgotten about her husband overseas.
Not Carla. She's different. She wouldn't do that.
Yes. Yes, I know. But she's a mighty good-looking young woman, Mario. The kind of girl men notice. You must have had some uneasy moments while you were away.
Oh, me? Not on your life. Carla wouldn't look at another guy, I tell you. She's straight.
Well, maybe you're right, Mario. The fellas here in Wakefield know better than to try any funny business.
They better if they know what's good for them. Anyway, why talk about it?
More beer, Mario?
No, thanks. I think... Oh, yeah. Here comes Carla across the street now. I'd better beat it. Thanks for the drink, Mr. Calvert. It was swell.
Yes, you must. But we'll have to have another little session soon. I've enjoyed talking to you. Goodbye, Mario.
So long, Mr. Calvert. Be seeing you.
Oh, why, hello, Mario.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Calvert.
Well, I didn't know you and Ben were doing business.
No, Mr. Calvert asked me in to split a bottle of beer with him.
Oh, well, that's nice. But must you rush off?
My wife's waiting for me.
Oh, well, tell her I said hello. Ben?
In here, Jessie.
Well, I just ran into Mario Descare.
Yes, we've been having quite a nice little talk.
I'm rather surprised, Ben. You don't usually pal around with the local farmers.
Nothing wrong with it, is there? Besides, that boy rather interests me.
Does he?
Yes.
Well, he's somewhat of a diamond in the rough, and heaven knows he's good looking. And his wife's a real beauty. There's something about him. I don't know how to describe it.
Is this more of your amateur psychology, Jessie?
Don't tease me, Ben. You must admit my analysis is sometimes surprisingly accurate.
No, right. Now, what about Mario Descare?
Oh, I don't know quite. But I have the feeling he has tremendous emotional depths. Rather dangerous ones.
Dangerous? How?
There's a lot of fire in him. Smoldering fire. And if it ever gets loose...
I shouldn't imagine there's much danger of that.
I don't know, Ben. The way his eyes follow that wife of his...
Well, Jessie, maybe you're right. You mentioned the other day about his being a very jealous man. I got a flash of it just now.
Well, you can hardly blame him.
And with that quick temper of his, I wonder just what he'd do. How far he'd go.
How far? Well, from what I've seen of him, I wouldn't put anything past him if he were aroused. But there's not much point in discussing it.
No. And yet, Jessie, it's rather an interesting idea.
Ben Calvert was thinking of the power of jealousy, which can destroy the closest friendship, alienate man from his best friend. Jealousy, whose destructive force has driven men into frenzies of frustrated passion, even to murder. And then Ben remembered Mario's wife, Carla, laughing up into Bill Meade's face.